Earth Defense Force is a special, somewhat niche series of games that's origins come from a humble little PS2 title called Monster Attack. It ran about as well as it looked. However, appearances are often deceiving, and this little game was pushing boundaries for a budget title with citywide destruction at the heart of it. If I were to describe most EDF games, I'd say that they are the quirky Japanese love child of Mercenaries, Playground of Destruction, and shoot-'em-up games like Ikaruga. Mercenaries was a third-person action shooter like EDF, where calling in cars, tanks, helicopters, and large-scale airstrikes helped the player capture or eliminate high-priority targets in a war-torn North Korean setting. Earth Defense Force features a class where large-scale destruction via these call-ins are the focus, and this is just one of the 4 classes in EDF 4.1 and 5. Prior titles and spin-offs do not share the same class structure, but do have a focus on the third-person action and large-scale environmental destruction, which is pretty much the core of EDF. I also hear these games can help cure your arachnophobia by sending their giant insect limbs splattering over walls and great distances with a well-placed missile barrage. The similarities to the old-school shoot-'em-up games also cannot be ignored here, as it brings in the element of an addicting challenge to Earth Defense Force. While strafing side to side, avoiding continuous bombardments of lasers, acid webs, plasma bombs, and other various projectiles, the player will be engaged throughout the hundreds of pulse-pounding missions that EDF provides. There really isn't anything more satisfying than avoiding all of the incoming fire while gunning down an enemy the size of several skyscrapers. Learning the patterns and combinations of fire and how to avoid them helps the player master their character movement and positioning. A skilled player can make strong use of the mobility certain classes like the Wing Diver provide, or they can even squeeze more mobility out of a class like the Fencer, who is known to be slower with their giant mech suit frames, but they do have equipment that can be used to help maneuver. Oh yeah, and all of these classes have a metric butt ton of weapons to play around with, almost all of which featuring pros and cons that change up the way that a player approaches a mission. Wing divers have to manage their suit energy. This is the same energy that their weapons will be feeding on, so overdoing it with the weapons will leave them in a very slow state on the ground and very vulnerable to the enemy attacks, so you have to be very careful with your energy management. Some of the Wing Diver weapons will suck more energy than others, so it's definitely something you have to keep an eye on. The Air Raider, while having an amazing ability to call in things, they're often left with very little defensive capabilities while waiting on those cooldowns, so between the abilities, the Air Raider is often exposed. Little things like this just add another layer of depth on top of an already very satisfying player experience, and it also kind of adds to the cooperative nature of the game. So overall, I'd say EDF can be experienced in many ways. You can have some casual funs with friends in co-op while blasting away the giant insects, or you can crank the difficulty all the way up and experience levels of frustration previously unknown. Either way, you're going to fall in love with Earth Defense Force. Speaking of falling in love with EDF, why isn't there an EDF anime yet? I mean, seriously, the camaraderie of the EDF troops shown to each other in the series is great, and having an anime maybe like Gate, but with EDF soldiers facing down the giant insect army, while progressively facing more and more terrifying things that the aliens send their way, it could be so cool. Have you played an Earth Defense Force game before? What would you tell your friends to try to get them to play it? Sound off in those comments below, and let's recruit some more into the Earth Defense Force so we can
save our Mother Earth from any alien attack!
Thanks for watching.